I'll never forget that first day at pit. Me and my father worked a 72-hour shift. Then we walked home 43 mile through snow in his bare feet, huddled inside his clothes made of old sack. Eventually we trudged over hill until we could see streetlight twinkling in our village. Father smiled down at me, through icicles hanging off his nose. "Nearly home now, lad," he said. We stumbled into a house and stood there freezing cold and tired out. That'll be my agent. I was born in Wales, just outside Newport, in between Newport and Chepstow, in a place called Lydia Bainin Hospital in 1963. My dad was run a hairdressing business and an insurance business. He used to sell insurance to the ladies as he did their hair. My mum did many jobs, but main job was bringing us up. I went to school in Chepstow, on the border with England and Wales. Lots of running battles with the English because we were all staunchly Welsh. My mother desperate to not let me have a Welsh accent and actually speak the Queen's English, and I used to desperately put a Welsh accent on just to try and feel some camaraderie with my Welsh brothers.
I first met Tim in 1980 when we both were members of something called the Gwent Young People's Theatre, GYPT, in Abergavenny in South Wales. And I think the first time I met him, he came bounding into the room, a ferocious small ball of energy with a remarkably tight pair of jeans on.
It meant you got out of lessons. You got to hang around backstage with all the girlies, and that was just good fun. It was this secret place backstage, sitting in the wings, waiting for your part, and all manner of stuff went on. It was just fantastic.
He had an eye for the girls. That was clear from the word go. But he also was a kind of person who had time for everybody, Tim. He had time for everybody, and he gave of himself freely, especially with the women.
Look at the knobbles on that!
When I left school, I had a real dilemma, or the last 6 months of school. Big dilemma. I'd been to see the careers teacher, and I said, well, I want to be an actor. And he just looked at me blankly and said, good luck. But I'd also signed up at the same time to join the Marines. So there was this real dichotomy. What do I do? And back in those days, you didn't get, well, you got grants, but the course that I went on to do at the Welsh College of Music and Drama was actually a discretionary grant. So you had to go and do an audition in a council room in front of these grey faces, and then for them to sort of sit there and look. Well, you realise, young boy, you are training for unemployment, aren't you? And I sort of vehemently said, I'm going to make this work. I am going to make this work. I will be an actor and I will make it pay. And I think they're still proving me wrong. Because it ain't paid yet.
They say if you can't get into any other drama school in the country, still don't go to the Welsh College of Music and Drama. And we all washed up there in this triumphant sea of mediocrity, of which I was a piece of plankton floating near the bottom of that sea, and Tim was just a grade above me, a kind of a fish flattened by gravity, I suppose. And but in his mind, Tim was destined for Hollywood. He was destined, I think he was destined to be on something like Chips.
His choice of fashion ideas were way, way off beam. You know, this was early 1980s and he was still operating around 75, 76. It was Miami Vice, there was an element of that, rolled up jackets, sleeves rolled up. He just wanted to be an action hero of some sort, but unfortunately he was in a very bad drama school and he was a very small man.
They had a policy in our college that you weren't allowed to do any shows outside college. They didn't let you do anything. Now, they brought this policy in because quite a few of us were doing another show called West Side Story, and I'd done that before at one of the theatres in Newport. This was now in Cardiff, and I'd been in this show, I'd been rehearsing it for a while, and they brought this policy in, and everyone staunchly agreed that they were going to, stay in the shows that they were doing, and bugger the college, we'll just do it, whatever. And of course, everyone else just sort of buckled because the weak-willed, spineless twats that they were, decided to, well, I better go back to college and do the right thing, sir. And so I just said, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to carry on doing the show. But I thought, well, actually, my name's going to be in the programme, and so I better, I'll just come up with a different name. So I thought, well, interesting name. What sort of really defines, where I want to. And I came up with this name, which I thought was quite reasonable. Nothing wrong with Chris De Silva.
This is Chris, K-R-I-S, Da, D-A, Silva, S-I-L-V-A.
No need to tell you what was wrong with that.
It was a gift from the gods of comedy, essentially, to the rest of us. Thank you so much.
I didn't wear leg warmers, though.
Tim's acting abilities are... Tim's acting abilities.
He was a very poor actor, very poor. Unfortunately, he didn't get cast in the best of roles. I think he played Old Man in The Crucible, where he came on with an outlandish accent. That kind of stuff.
He's a brilliant performer, Tim. He's a brilliant performer. He's not so good at trying to be other people, which is the kind of core skill of acting, I think, of letting go of yourself and becoming somebody new and speaking words written for you by another person. I think Tim is too tuned into himself to allow him to tune out and tune into somebody new. He has a tendency to overact.
When we left drama school, Rob and I decided that generally actors were all wankers and it was a bad thing to be an actor. So we set up various businesses up, and one day we decided to go and watch a friend of ours, John Smith, who'd set this kids theatre company up, just to go and watch him and see what it was all about. Well, we went down and watched him, and it was I can't remember the name of the show. It was quite an interesting show. All the kids there, and no, it's all right. And we said, how much do you get for that then? And he said, well, we get £60 an hour. And a show is an hour long, and we get 60 quid. So there's two people in a show, do 2 shows a day, you get 60 quid each a day. And at the time, that was probably worth, I suppose, in today's money, I don't know, 150 quid sort of thing. I was like, fucking hell, that's not bad. 60 quid, just pissing about on it. So, fuck working for a living, let's just go and set a theatre company up and do that. Because that sounds like you could spend 2 hours working, get your 60 quid, spend the rest of the day in the pub.
And T. James did vomit mid-show on one occasion in the middle of a production. Hello, kids, had to stop, whip just slightly to the side of the stage and just vomit everywhere, wipe it off, and then back on with the rest of the speech.
Well, no, you're a fucking fuck. And we were doing this show called Sedan and the Lord of Aklas, which involved me as this big giant.
Lord Aklas tries to launch the rocket, blow up the earth, everyone dies, and he's on stilts, he's a giant, and he comes and kills people and does it, but we defeat him at the end, and we turn off the rocket, and we save the world. That's the story. But we're about 5 or 10 minutes into the show when suddenly T. James appears around the side of the set, dressed as the baddie on the stilts, but with no clothes but pants on and his stilts on full display, carrying a stick, shouting, "Evil wins! Evil wins!"
And they then try to kill me, throwing a chain around me, and I slay them both. And I look at the kids and say, terror wins, evil reigns. That's the end of the show. And these kids are sat there going, and their teachers and their helpers are looking at them going.
Tim James and I met on a yacht in Antibes many years, about 4 or 5 years before Funnyman, and he was running a small yacht, and I was working on a very large yacht, and he came along to barbecue, and he was talking to me. I was on the deck, and he was half peeking out from below, and him and I were talking, and he's a good-looking chap. And he's a great flirt, and him and I were flirting outrageously. We'd had a lot of wine. It was a lovely sunny evening in Antibes. And by the time he actually came out from below deck and revealed his full stature, which gave me a bit of a shock, I have to say, at the time, I was hooked. I was hooked by then.
I knew it. She fancies me.
Funnyman, the I thought he was a star in the making, really. I thought he had everything he needed. He was quite well presented little fella. He was very clean and tidy, despite all those around him sort of falling into sort of bad ways, getting drunk a lot. You know, there's a lot of sort of yobbish behaviour around him, I'd actually describe it as. But he seemed to stay sort of above it all, which is odd because he was so much below it. You know, we'd go from party to party in Cannes, trying to get photographed and, you know, generate a little bit of interest in the film and just doing anything, standing on top of cars in the middle of the high street, dancing. I remember that very well. Getting his photo taken. He used to get his photo taken by everyone, including the police.
He's great fun. He's got a massive amount of energy. He's a performer in every way. He's a performer on, you know, in front of the camera. He's a performer off the camera.
You know, you'd turn around and he'd be chatting up a 6-foot supermodel. You know, this grotesque. He'd be chatting this way, and with an enormous amount of energy and confidence, and doing quite well. You know, like sort of sometimes picking women up.
He's just got it. He has got that thing. He can charm the pants off people. I charm pants off me. I
mean, we did lots and lots of things, lots of promotions on the film, trying to break the movie, and you know, no matter how crass some of the promotional activity we suggested was, Tim would throw himself wholeheartedly into it. One of them, I think the film was True Lies. It was the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, and Tim, we got him in the prosthetic, and and we got a glamorous girl of the day, a sort of page 3 model or something, to go along, and she was basically wearing a sort of neck curtain.
I'm not nervous.
But you're moist.
When I first met him, he was dressed fully as Funnyman, so I didn't know what he looked like, so I didn't know that there was really a person under there. So as far as I was concerned, he is type Funnyman. So even if I see him now, which I haven't seen him for a while, but if I did, I still see him as that. So I remember meeting up with him after as Tim. Then you can't get past it when you've met someone like that, really. So to me, he's Funnyman.
Well, it's back to you, Valerie, in the studio. Thank you.
When he took his mask off, he was always that vexed person, which I was just pointing out is really what he is anyway, but he was able to be more open about it when it was too much.
But our PR agent, I don't know if this guy used to drink heavily or something, I don't know, but anyway, but he hadn't bothered to ring the newspapers up. So what basically happened was Tim turned up with this astounding looking woman who was basically naked, you know, dressed as this monster with his dinner suit on, and people just thought he was a very heavily deformed, disfigured person who turned up for the premiere.
Sort of a cross between Jimmy Savile and Barry White or something. No, Ron Jeremy, isn't it?
It was an interesting PR stunt in as much as it had no PR worth whatsoever.
Now that is the way to do it.
Obviously, as a jobbing actor, one has to make ends meet. And people often supplement, or in fact complement their you know, professional acting careers with commercials.
Today, we're holding a feast in a very dark place.
'Tis as dark as the chunky cord of this proverbial feast. See.
We live to feast another day!
Now then, what are you doing in Jimmy's magic chair?
A veritable banquet!
On a stick.
Or sometimes if they can't get commercials, you do corporate videos.
Well, I'm glad to say I've now got a response to your RFQ. Well, most of it. 2 of the LBEs have got back to me. I'm still waiting for MSLP because SBS is down.
LBE? MSLP? SBS? What is this idiot talking about? I'm sorry, I didn't follow that.
The problem with being an actor is that's all you are. You're totally dependent on someone else liking you, someone else giving you a job. You have no part in any decision-making process, or indeed any creative part of the process, really, you know, other than, you know, doing your job as an actor. You get told where to stand, which way to look, if you're being directed, you know, at all. But, so in many respects, you know, all the way through my life, every time I've been involved in an acting job, you've ended up doing some part of production as well. So you're always wearing a couple of hats.
Relax. I've taken off my purchasing manager's hat.
So when we finished Funnyman, the production, everything else, that was all done and dusted. It seemed more of a natural progression to go on and carry on producing and trying to produce films.
Tim, happy birthday. Welcome to being 40. I used to be 40 about 2 weeks ago.
These days, I've moved about as far away from jigging about in a rubber mask as you can get. I'm currently running a technology company. We've developed a technology for killing chemical and biological agents in air and water. But aligned with that, Ingrid and myself run an event company as well, event organising company. And for the past 2 or 3 years, we've been running very large events down on the river just down here at Teddington, the Teddington River Festival, attracting sort of 16,000 people. But never one to shy away from the limelight. Every year it's become tradition now that we perform the fish slapping dance. And occasionally people call up and drag you back in to do a bit of top quality acting. And point in case, recently I got phoned up by Rob, who had written Mike Bassett, England Manager. Phoned me up. I'm making the TV series. I'm producing it. I've written it. I've written a part expressly for you.
Hey, funny. Pop it.
Great. Fantastic, Yeah, I'd really like to do that, What is it? Well, this is, it's the lead show. The show is about you and your character.
Four-headed twat.
What is it? What's the part? It is. It's yeah, all right. What is it? You are the scunny bunny.
Referee! He's contravening every rule in the FA book! Come on, I'll see it. Oh, you want a bit, do you? Hey!
I think where most of us today carry the scars of disappointments and setbacks in life, which may give us cause to pause before we commit ourselves to a new venture or make ourselves vulnerable. Tim is wonderfully free of that.
When we sum up T. James, when we look at the legend, we look at the history, we look at the myth that is T. James, we have to conclude, I think, that T. James is the shortest giant who ever strode the earth.
Very funny, cheeky twat.
When he dies, I think on his graveyard it will say, "Here lies Tim James. He was energetic."